Welcome to the Girl Out of Order podcast, my friend Alyson Hoag.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello, Christine. So glad to be here with you today.
Oh my goodness, I am so tickled to bring you on the podcast and speak to our community because you and I met 2 years. I guess it's literally been 2 years
Cheers.
almost to the day of that
Yeah.
we're recording this. We met at Lauren Lahav's Own Your Worth conference, now the Own It conference in 2024. And I just remember being so struck not only by your obvious beauty, because you are beautiful, but it was the beautiful energy that you emitted. I remember you coming up to me and talking to me after I had spoken on stage. And I just remember you made such an impression. So, what an honor to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that being at Own Your Worth, that was actually the week that Genuous Beauty, my brand, was launched.
Mm.
And the day after was when the product ended up on the Today Show. So that was a huge weekend for me. And that was actually the first time that we actually showed Genuous off because we had just launched. So it was a really big deal to be part of that. And your presentation on stage was just remarkable. And it was really beautiful to see you share your story. And I was really honored to be able to watch you deliver that as well. So it was amazing.
Well, it was a first for both of us that weekend. I've never spoken on stage to that weekend, so it was a really big deal. Anyway, so I've done the introduction, but it doesn't really even hold a candle to you introducing yourself to the audience. So, Allison, if I were to walk up to you on the street and just put a microphone in your face and say, "Who are you?" Who would you say that you are? Introduce yourself to this beautiful community.
So first and foremost, I've been a makeup artist for over 40 years, which is really insane to say. Over 40 years, I've been touching people's faces. And really, it goes beyond that because I actually got kicked out of my third grade class in elementary school for putting makeup on people. So, we just don't count that as my professional career.
Mm.
I've been on a path of personal development since I was really young. I went to college when I was 16 and have a sociology degree and graduated very young, not knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up. I ended up behind the makeup counters thinking it was going to be temporary, and it launched my entire career. And somewhere in the having children and finding my way, I decided to open up a makeup studio that's called Authentic Beauty, and we've had it for 17 years. And I wanted it to be a safe place for women to be able to explore their image because I think so many people, we have the kids, we have the job, we're overwhelmed. And even if you don't have the kids, life can be incredibly overwhelming. And I have found that so many people get overwhelmed by the beauty industry. And there's also this
Mhm.
unrealistic standard of beauty that so many of us are unwilling to follow, but there's no alternative to what that is. And it's very hard to find that. And so I've built my whole career on that evolution of going like, I love to put makeup on people, to really working with the power of having a woman explore her authentic image. And we'll
Mhm.
talk about this story, but in the addition to that, I also learned how to do eyebrows really, really well. And so I've been voted the eyebrow guru of Atlanta, and I tweeze only, and I have 3,000 clients. It all happened because eyebrows are the most important feature of the face, and it's what creates balance and expression, and was not meaning to get known for eyebrows, but then that became a huge part of my identity. So eyebrows is really a funny thing. And on top of it, I have two children. I am a Tony Robbins trainer now, which is amazing. I was just promoted to being. I've been on a Tony journey for half of my life, and then just recently, like I mentioned in the beginning, is I launched Genuous Beauty 2 years ago, which I
Mhm.
really got sick and tired of the beauty industry not having products for women over 50. And
Okay, pause for a second. Pause for a second. That is so powerful. That is so powerful because you're talking to women who are in their midlife. Like that's my community. A lot of women are in their midlife and it's like we almost feel like you have all these products for you and then there's like this stopping point and you fall off a cliff in terms of how you feel about it. It's like you said, it's not about the makeup. It's
yeah,
about the visual identity. How do you feel? How do you express yourself through your visual identity? So I love that you saw a problem and you met the need.
yes. And that started, so the framework was what Authentic Beauty gave me, the framework for how to
Mm.
teach this. But then we didn't have the products easily because the products haven't been working for women over 50 and
Mhm.
they're complicated. Right. So I know very few women who are over 40 that have a love affair with Sephora. When I ask most people where, yes, exactly. You see that face? I'm going to actually film people when I say, what do you think of Sephora? It's that face exactly. And so then where do we go to get beauty advice over 40? Where do you go, right? And then we talk in snippets and like even as I'm trying to train myself to be able to talk in 30 seconds to have you say, tell me more, right? It's very difficult, to grab people's attention for that. And I'm committed to that for the rest of my life because what's underneath that is you use the products for an outcome. You have to know what you wanna look like first before you buy the stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like, you
Yeah.
have to know what it is that you wouldn't just randomly buy, a piece of furniture and stick it in your house without having a plan, at least most people, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of that way of looking at it from a larger perspective, right? Which is this identity work which is, what we're gonna talk about today.
I love that. So you got into makeup sort of naturally, but also maybe you thought temporarily. But what fascinated me when you were introducing yourself is, first of all, going to college at 16. Holy smokes, are you kidding me? Second of all, getting a sociology degree and then really finding yourself in a career of with makeup and visual. I think we talked about this visual identity. What do you look like? What do you want to look like? What energy do you want to bring? But the tie to how a woman expresses herself is really fascinating to me. Was there a point in your life where you felt maybe you'd even reached a threshold where you're like, I cannot continue going in this direction, and you made some kind of pivot? Did it change your career? Did it change you personally? Tell us a little bit about that.
So, a couple things. So, one, when obviously graduating college at 19 led me down this path. I became like the educator for Aveda for the Southeast, like went like this, and I had a 10-state region and had this amazing job, and I was in my, really thought that I was on my path, and I got pregnant with my son in the middle of all of that. Well, I had 10 states and a big job, and I could no longer do it. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, pretty much freelance career. And in the middle of all of that, I just felt so lost. And I went back to work
Mm.
inside of a salon. And I also, was a personal trainer, which was kind of a fun thing because I was a competitive athlete for most of my life. And when I went back to the salon, was got literally 5 minutes to look at my face. When you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, I had 5 minutes to put myself together, and I was expected to be the beauty professional that I was before I had kids. And I was like, I just kept doing the same thing over and over. And
Mm.
that was my recognition because of the awareness of taking care of, now I became my client. Hear my clients say to me, I don't look in the mirror. I'd be like, what do you mean you don't look in the mirror? One of the questions you ask as a makeup artist is, well, how long do you take to do your makeup? And the majority of women would say 5 minutes. And in my 17, 19-year-old brain, I'd be like, you mean you can't give yourself more than 5 minutes? Like what's wrong with you? Right. And now here I
Right.
was like, just try to get out the door in one piece. And all of a sudden, I had this moment where I was like, I don't know really who I am anymore. And I had long, red, curly hair, which was a huge part of my identity. Huge. When you're a red, curly hair girl, like people relate, there's a whole redhead culture.
Oh, I know. My best friend, by the way, from 6 years old, had long red curly hair, and I have never felt more invisible than when I would go out to a bar with her. Like it was like I literally didn't even exist. She just looked like attention. She was the
Attention.
star attraction, and she kind of had a love hate relationship with it.
Yes. And I now was a mom with 2 kids. And I didn't want, not that I didn't want that attention, but that what just wasn't me, but I didn't know that. And I got introduced to this amazing book. And actually it's my 30th birthday, which my daughter just turned 30 this year. So it's kind of a wild ride, which I'll share about that in a second. But when on my 30th birthday, she gave me this book and it said something more, the pathway to excavating your authentic self. And she said, "This looks like you," and gave it to me as my birthday present. Little did I know that that book would change my life. And Sarah Bambronic has been on Oprah 17 times. She is the mother of gratitude. Oprah acknowledges her as the woman who taught her about gratitude. And she's been my mentor for the past 18, 19 years now, personally. When I got that book, what she says in that book is if the goal of our life is to have our life be an expression of our authentic self, which that's all we're doing, right? As we wake up every day, or at least most, particularly people in our community, I think we're always looking, going, well, what does my authentic self look like? We might not say it like that, but we wake up every day going, is this me? Is this not me? Is this me? Is this not me? In a level of looking at from my best version of myself, what does that look like? And sometimes we have to rewrite that narrative. Which our life,
Yeah.
our life is not, it's not what we woke up and went, okay, I'm not on that path and maybe I've changed. And part of that included then asking yourself the question, if the goal of your life is to have your life be a reflection of your authentic self, then what do you look like in it?
So you're impacted by this book, and you said it was called Something More.
Something more.
And what's the author's name?
Sarah, and it's Ban Breath Knack. So it's pronounced Bronick, but it's Breath Knack.
Okay, I'll be putting that in the show notes because I'm not even going to try to spell that. So this book, and I think, you and we run in the same circles in the Tony Robbins world.
Yes.
And a lot of times there's books that we all kind of are familiar with.
Yes.
And this is one I haven't heard of, but I do relate so deeply, Alyson, to how a singular message in a book can be the thing that your soul is crying out for and you don't even know it. And when you get that message and it's almost like, how a master coach teaches how the light comes down. It's like it just goes right straight
Right on you.
Yes, exactly. Right into your soul. And so what's interesting, and I want to make this very clear, like this woman that you all are listening to is not just a makeup artist. That is the vehicle that she has used to express the internal and external transformation that she has experienced and brings about for her clients. It's beautiful. And so this book cracks you open and you decide, all right, I'm not going to settle anymore. So then what? What happened?
So the big aha moment came because she goes, okay, make a collage. What she believes is that if you try to talk through it, like if you've ever tried to talk to a hairdresser about how to cut your hair and then it never goes right, like that's what this is. We're talking with our heads and not with our heart. And Sarah really believes that collaging, which, those of us in this community, collaging is can be a big piece of making a visual representation. And sometimes you can't articulate, you can't find the words to express who you are. So
Right.
I went down and we had magazines back in the day because this was, this is 28 years ago and we had to use magazines and not, use Pinterest. And I'm cutting images and I'm like, asking myself the question, what does your authentic self look like? What does your authentic self look like? And it was blonde. Everything was blonde. And I was like, and short, right? Short and blonde. And I was like,
Hmm.
and I saw Meg Ryan in City of Angels that year.
Love her.
And that movie was such a visual representation of who I was, that intensity of that character, that wrestling with, what life is and just how beautiful it was. And I went and I cut off 7 inches of long red curly hair. It took me 6 months to find a hairdresser who was willing to do it. And I knew that I was going to look
Really?
lemon. Yeah. And I knew I was going to look lemon because when you go from red to blonde, it is not a like, oh, you're going to go chop it off. And it took a lot to get there. And then it was really interesting the way that people related to me. And
Tell me about that.
so, just like how, what I believe is that we relate to ourselves by our appearance. Like we know who we are by that reflection.
Hmm.
And what locks that into place is also how people relate to you. So people know you. So if you change something about your appearance, most people are going to be like, oh, That's a change. And you'll hear, I heard so many different people, like, you'd be like, oh, I liked you better as a redhead. Oh, I love you as a blonde. Oh, I can't imagine you, right? Like everybody had their opinion about it.
Mhm.
And it was really fascinating. I was in such observation mode because for the first time in my life, it didn't matter what anybody had to say about my appearance. I was
Mm.
100% lined up with who I was on the inside. And that to me is the biggest question is what when you're looking in the mirror is who you are staring back at you. And
Love that.
and if 90% of what people believe about us is nonverbal, then we have a responsibility to have an image that communicates who we are so that somebody can absolutely know who you are and this isn't in the way of who we are because
Yeah.
author it is how I like to say it. Author your
Mhm.
image, and I don't believe we have a lot of tools. There aren't a lot of people communicating that message because it really isn't about the makeup, and the makeup is one piece of that. And that is what I teach is how to have, because the makeup becomes a huge accessory because it's your face. People are going to look at your face first. So that's how I ended up staying with what I do because that's I'm going to teach that until the day I die because that's really where the power is. It's not about another lipstick or another formula, which there are things that will make it better, but this is the juice. Like this is the juice right here. So
Okay, I love that. So, something that you said really stuck out to me, and I didn't even put two and two together until right now when we're having this conversation. So, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm showing you that's when you saw me, right?
absolutely.
And you see how short my hair is.
Yes.
So, when you saw me on stage 2 years ago, it was, let's see, March of 2024. It was about a year and a half after my intervention with Tony. I don't know if you were at that date
Yeah.
with
Oh,
Destiny.
I was. It
Yeah.
changed my life. I brought in my
Oh.
my trash can, and my husband was like, "What's happening with you?" I was like, "I brought in the trash can for you."
Oh, you're so sweet. I am just amazed at the ripple effect that that intervention has had, and especially on my own soul. And so, something you just said really resonated with me. I'm going to see if I can tie it together here. I have had dreams of having long hair my whole life. I used to take t-shirts and put them up over my forehead and let them hang down my back. And I'd flip the t-shirts like I had long hair, but I always had very fine hair. So it was never able to really grow much past my shoulders without breaking off. And so when I had the intervention with Tony, one of the things, if you recall, that he really challenged me on was to drop the mask of masculinity and be open to my femininity, which had always felt very threatening and very, I had to protect her, right? So I powered up. I became the warrior, and we need both. We
Yes.
need both pieces. So for me, part of my reckoning was a softening. And so it was actually, so that was in March of 24, and then in October of 24, I realized it was a dream for me. Everybody has their dreams of getting extensions. I was told that I wouldn't even be able to have extensions because my hair was so fine. And then I met with somebody else and she's like, "That's crazy." So the reason I share that is because what I did was I basically put extensions in as an outward expression of the femininity that now starting to take shape and take root in my spirit. It's not about the hair. It's about what my visual identity expresses about my internal understanding of who I am. Is that what you're talking about?
That is exactly what I'm talking about. And now we have so many cool things as part of beauty, such as extensions, right? To be able to craft this like a bar, like I thought it was like a sense of play, right? Like when you're a kid and you want to wear, your cowboy boots with your leggings, with your ballerina skirt, and you walk out feeling like you are the bomb.com, right? And that's what this is it's this, and there isn't one part to it. Like when I ask this question about it, is I'm sure you have, rock star self as much as you have what the divine feminine self is, which is your attorney self, right? When you go to court, it's also a different feel, right? There's different ways to dress her up. And that
Right.
becomes the playful part is what does each piece of me? Like I bought these boots in Italy that are like the most amazing black boots that you like amazing. I have rock star self. Like rock star self is a big part of my identity. I love these boots. Like boots on, and I am immediately like, oh my God, I resonate with Lauren on that, like with her rock star self. I'm like, oh baby, right? So that's just one piece of how I get to dress her. And what a powerful
Right.
place to come from, right? Is I can dress up those pieces of my identity that matter to me.
Right. Right.
And then people have I think I have a much better chance of understanding who you are by the way you actually, I call it author your image.
I love that. And so, what we're talking about in this phase of the season is rewriting. And it seems to me, I know for me, the moment I put these extensions on, I felt like I rewrote a, 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 a part of me. And I didn't not see that coming. I thought, oh, it's going to be pretty. It's like a dream. But it's like I literally feel softer in
Yeah.
the way that I carry myself. I feel more at ease in my body. So for you, Allison, when you went through this massive transformation of having the long red hair to the shorter blonde hair, did you feel like that was a rewriting? And if so, how would you speak to the woman out there who feels stuck in her old way of showing up?
So so the process that I do inside the studio is called an image journey. So it's a journey, right? There isn't really a destination to it. There are stopping places along the way. That journey doesn't stop until we're done. So I think today is Iris Avral, the amazing 100-year-old woman who designed herself. She didn't start, if everybody knows who she is, she passed away today and she was like her anniversary of her passing away. And that right there, the designing your image, a reflection of your authentic self,
Mhm.
right? To be able to step into those different pieces, you take the time to ask yourself those questions. And now, like I said, we have Pinterest to be able to start pulling images that you're resonating with. And you're not going to copy it. It's going to be your version, but allowing ourselves like a child, like we were when we were kids, when you were looking through magazines and, oh, that's beautiful. And oh, that is inspiring me. Or the next word that I hear a lot of people say is, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that.
That's what I was gonna actually as soon as you said that, I want you to speak to that woman who feels like spending money on herself or taking the time to do her makeup or hair is selfish. What would you say to her? Because I think that's a very common feeling and emotion, especially when you're in the thick of building
Yeah.
a career or raising children, you just sort of diminish the importance of taking care of yourself. I know self care is huge, but this is bigger than self care. I love
Yeah.
what you said, self authorship. But what would you say to that woman who feels selfish or guilty about spending those resources or time on herself?
Yeah. So this is where we future pace, right? And you ask yourself, you know, what are those moments when you felt the absolute best about yourself and bringing that, it's the feeling of that, right? And it doesn't have to require, that's where people think it's complicated, right? That's where the miss comes for me, because we've been taught that beauty is complicated because the beauty
Right.
industry has so taken everything that we feel that is wrong with us, so that beauty becomes, we feel bad about beauty. Like we don't even want to look at it because most of us have a journey of like, I'm not enough. I don't have big enough eyes. I got wrinkles. I don't got little lips. I have no eyebrows, right? And so we're anchored to this negativity around beauty and then looking at these aspirational pictures that we could never become. So
Mhm.
it's one, I like to say this really beautiful line, which is give yourself the gift of your own attention.
I love it.
What is that, to be able to just say, going to commit to 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, or 15 minutes a week, but to myself, and actually look at myself in the mirror and ask myself this question. and let it unfold. And then the
Mhm.
patterns and the just like you with the hair, you might not have known. Like you didn't know that
Mm-mm.
that was going to have that. You just knew that that was when I you were wrestling with what it meant to express your feminine, right? And to go down the
Right.
path of my femininity, that's what that looked like for you. That might not be for somebody else, but for you, that's what it was. And now you're aligned and you do see that softness in you. Absolutely.
It's definitely shifted. Even Lauren was saying that she said something to me in October we were at Unleash the Power Within, and she's just smiling at me. I was like, I talk to Lauren frequently. So I was like, what are you smiling about? She's like, you're so different. And I said to her, I said, yeah, I feel more grounded. She's like, no, 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 you're rooted. And I was like, whoa. So I actually went like kind of a deep dive. I'm a big word person. I'm like, what does rooted mean? And I started to really unpack that word. And I was like, aha, until you and I started talking, I didn't connect the dots between the shifts I made in my visual identity and my willingness to take care of my external so that it reflects my internal. And that's when I became more rooted in who I am as a person. So I think it's not the thing that changed me, but
Yeah.
it's part of the equation, you know?
I mean, you couldn't have said I got chills a little bit because that is something, in rooted, just so, when you go to the root chakra, right, which is the base chakra, which is where our grounding happens, right? So I love that. I love that actually for you because, I wouldn't know anybody else who's been working on that one myself. I wouldn't know anything about that one. One thing I also want to say too is, when you shared also the picture of yourself as a little girl, in On Your Worth, and you had her up there.
Mm,
Like I'm looking at your nails with your polka dots,
yeah, that's
right? Like
ill
that
conceived.
still playful, right? There's
Yeah.
this playfulness. And like I was saying, like there isn't one way to express her. There's multiple layers to who we are. And this is just one bag of tricks like that we get to pull in to really create an identity that serves us because that's what we're doing at the end of the day is like going, what does my authentic life look like? And I think women put a lot of attention on their homes and they put attention on how to create something external. It's funny because I never got that gene. That's actually something I've had to work with Sarah, who's the mentor, because she does all this stuff on home. That's something I can avoid really. I've had to go to work on that inside of my Tony work is how to do that because I got more associated with the appearance as attached to my femininity, which was really interesting. So yeah, I think that allowing yourself to wrestle with these questions is a really perfect way to just start. And you're going to hear your voice say to yourself, oh, I'm not that person. I'm not this. I
Mhm.
don't wear red. I don't wear blah, blah, blah. And I got to say, challenge it. Like just challenge the heck out of that so that you can let her emerge as the person that she wants to be. And that's the question is, who wants to come out that you
Yeah,
might not know?
I love that. I love that. And as we start to wrap up a little bit, I want to make
Yeah.
sure we get in this beautiful life lesson that you had recently when you were talking about the perennials. You and I were chatting about that before we go to, and it's such a beautiful, I am if you ever listen to Girl Out of Order for any period of time, I love metaphors. I love imagery. I love visuals because I'm a very visual person. So for me, and we talk a lot in the Tony world about anchoring in changes, right? What is the anchor? So for me, imagery is a big anchor for change and transformation. So tell us a little bit about what that perennial layer, what does that mean to you? Give us a
Uh,
little
this
background.
is so. This is actually when I found this term. I was 48, and I was actually surfing in Nicaragua. So I do all kinds of adventurous things, and I'm a tattoo girl, and not covered in them, but my tattoos are very strategic. In fact, one of them says "Life is a daring adventure or nothing." So things are very strategic. So I'm surfing. I'm turning 48, and the thing when I got closer to 50 is I felt more myself going into 50. It was so
Mhm.
unnerving because, in my mind, 50 was when you were old, right? Like when I was working on women
Yep.
who right? I was like, 50 is old. And I'm like, I'm surfing. I feel freaking the best I ever have. I'm like, I
Mhm.
feel anything other than old. I'm surfing. I'm the best I've ever been in. I'm the best I've ever looked like. What's up? I got a few more wrinkles, but who the hell cares?
50's
And
the best. The 50s are the best.
so I was given this article that said, meet the perennials. And there's a whole long thing, and you can go on Genuous Beauty, which I'm sure Christine will give you the link. But it says, meet the perennials. We're women that don't look our age, act our age, identify with our age. We're our own financial demographic. We're technology savvy. We mentor others. We're curious, and we are forever blooming.
Oh my gosh, that's such a mic. Don't move past that. That's such a mic drop. It's such a mic drop for this stage and phase of life, whether you're in your 50s or 60s, this midlife where we've been doing it the way we thought we should for so long, and now we're done.
Yes,
We're done, and we're not just done, we're ready.
we're ready.
We're ready to rewrite. We're ready to reemerge. We're ready to reinvigorate. We're ready to transform, but with all the knowledge that we didn't have when we were in our 20s and thought we knew everything, but we didn't know anything.
And now there's that integration of like, I'm ready to just go take it on. And time starts becoming more precious, and I just want to throw in one little thing is if you haven't seen Jane Fonda's TED Talk, I just discovered this because it got fed to me on Insta because I'm now searching the perennials. But Jane Fonda did a talk on her third act that when she hits 60,
Mm.
she said, I'm going to make this. And as I'm approaching 60 and I'm looking at Lauren, like, okay, just baby, just keep standing right there and being a role model for what this looks like. Right. I mean, damn. So I got given this article, this perennials article. And I inhaled it. And the woman who wrote this article coined this term. Her name is Gina Pell, and she's in tech. And I read it and I'm like, that's what I'm doing for the rest of my life. So the tagline for Genuous Beauty is beauty for the forever blooming, which I love. And I'm launching this perennial movement, which is, the adherence to I'm not going to get taken out because of a few wrinkles. That this is my time that I'm more aligned than I've ever been, that I reinvent myself every year and I bloom again and again. And I'm going to reinvent, reinvigorate, re-rate at any moment that I need to be in favor of my future self that is the most aligned in the highest purpose that I could possibly be. And
Oh my
that,
gosh.
right? That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And to have the courage to be able to do that in every area of your life, right? To be able to make those hard decisions. And the appearance is just, I find that if you can change your appearance, that you put on a lipstick, that more people, when they look in the mirror and they love what they see staring back at them, they make the changes. They leave the bad marriage, they leave the whatever. And I've seen it happen time and time again, where when people shed this and morph themselves into this next version of themselves physically and mentally, right? That then this part is like the part that just allows you to just go. And it forces people to relate to you differently, which if everybody's relating to you the same, we know that that's going to pull us back. That like nobody will speak, like you change your lipstick and they go, it's too much on you, mom. That's too much. No. So that's the power of the perennial movement, which is, yeah, I got this. Wear this one. I went to Paris, and that's what you're going to see is when I launched Genuous, I got this famous tattoo artist and spent 12 hours in this Paris cave when we launched, right before we launched Genuous Beauty. And I have a whole photo shoot in Paris, and I'm walking across the Louvre in this red cape dress at sunrise with this light. And the whole time I'm like, my God, am I really doing this? I'm, 50 something years old. And do I have the courage to be able to, step out and be, a model per se, where usually I'm taking care of the models. Can I do this? And I just, the whole time, one, I was channeling Lauren because I'm like, okay, if Lauren can sit there and do this, I can do this too. And it was one of the most powerful moments of my life. And it carries me forward still, in this moment. And I just want to inspire everybody to have that dress up moment, to be able to have this time where the impact that your appearance makes, like, don't cheat yourself out of that. And for you younger women out there, wear eye makeup, please, because there is going to come a time where your lids are heavy and you're going to miss your crease. So go
You're so funny.
wear some eye makeup.
Oh, Allison, this has been such a delight. I have to say, and when you and I were talking before we started recording, Girl Out of Order has three pillars. The first one is cultivating bravery. And when I think about you walking through the Louvre and changing your hair, it isn't about just the external. It's about an expression of the internal. And that's what identity work is all about. Because when you change the internal, the external cries out for change. And you're such a shining example of that. And I love the whole perennial movement. It's beautiful. And then the second pillar is it's inspiring boldness. Inspiring women to go out and live out their identity with boldness. And when you choose to radically rewrite your life, that is true power. And I appreciate so much your example. Where can just tell our listeners before we wrap up where they can find you? It'll be in the show notes, but just give our listeners a heads up on where they can find you and connect with you.
The whole perennial movement is written on Genuous Beauty because that's what, so we have a ton of blogs on the mindset of being a perennial and also the products. We have a new product launching in a couple of weeks, which smooths out the skin and blurs out things and it's quite magnificent. So you can find all of that on genuicebeauty.com. You can find me, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and it's ALYSON HOAG. So I'm the ALY version. Let's see, where else? And then the studio is myimagejourney.com. So you can find a lot of the writings on and on the image journey on the Authentic Beauty website.
Well, you are an absolute inspiration. Conversation is even more rich than I had even envisioned, but I am not the least bit surprised that it has been such a joy and such a delight. If you want to connect with Alyson, all of this information she just shared will be in the show notes. I highly recommend you follow this beautiful soul because we are just getting started. We're just getting warmed up. And I really believe that every year is just another act. It's just another act, and we get to rewrite our identity. We get to rewrite our journey. We get to reinvent ourselves anytime we gosh darn want to. And you are a beautiful, shining example. So thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love being able to share this, and I love how aligned we are in this piece. So just like all about elevating, elevating ourselves and living our best lives. So thank you for making that your life's mission too.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. Bye, my friend.